Now, in the COVID-19, we are not discussing a change the right of administering the Holy Communion, but we are discussing a pastoral need for some people who have a concern about getting infected because the way which we administer the Holy Communion. That's his issue. It is not everybody. There are many people who believe that is they go and take communion, but they are concerned. So the way which we dealt it, we study the concern. We find that is COVID-19 is a virus which the infection is through respiratory system, breathing, droplets in the air. More, it is not related to the food. It's not a cholera.
Welcome to Coffee with Bishop Suriel, a podcast for all things Coptic. This is a conversation about authentic Christian faith, Coptic history, patristic writings, the family, arts and music, religious education, youth matters, evangelism, and much more. Bishop Suriel likes his coffee like he likes his conversation, light, sweet, and scorching. We'll be joined by an array of guests who'll share their experiences, their backgrounds, and their insights to bring about an exciting discussion, and we hope you agree. Enjoy the podcast, and please welcome our host, Bishop Suriel. As we're celebrating an amazing milestone in the history of the Coptic Church in the United States, the Silver Jubilee of Metropolitan Serapion's ministry in Los Angeles. This is part 4 of our 4-part series. Here's His Grace and our very esteemed guest. Your Grace?
So if we move on, His Holiness Pope Tawadros II visited the diocese in 2015 and consecrated St. Athanasius Church in the Valley. And let us look at a short video clip and some photos of this historic occasion. So, Your Eminence, I recall that last year that His Holiness Pope Tawadros II spoke strongly in support of Your Eminence's wise pastoral decision, despite resistances coming from some people in Egypt. So why do you think this was?
Because what is important of what His Holiness Pope Tawadros mentioned, that is, he put it in the right context. There are needs there because their situation is different, and they have to respond to their needs. And we have in Egypt to understand this. Mm. He didn't put it only in the 25th because people took it. His Holiness supported because he wants 25th, which is not true, because if this is the reason, of course he will not accept it, because the first, people forget there are 3 items. The first item, I said, that is we are committed to 729th. And it will always be.
Yes, it was very clear.
Is His Holiness vision, and no, this is a step to change the 25th, then will not accept it, because we are very clearly saying that.
Yes.
And also we said that is the midnight. I know His Holiness, he knows that in some other places they cannot commit it to the midnight.
Yeah.
So the item 1 and item 2 could be not approved by His Holiness. But His Holiness looked to it in a different way. He looked to it, and that's why I appreciate it very much. And it is not the issue of the 25th, the issue of these people, they have different needs. And they have to respond to this need. Because we have other issues, and we will continue to have issues. And we just build a methodology to respond to this need. That is the significance of what His Holiness said. But unfortunately, people don't focus. People, they have some motivations. They have behind agenda, and because of that, all this troubles happen, because they put it in a different context. Yeah. And you find that is bishops in Egypt express concern, while the bishop here they're not show concern.
Yes.
Why you are caring there?
Yeah.
If this is a problem here, then you expect the bishop in America to speak.
That's true. Yeah. Your Eminence, there is a distinction between faith and rights. Can Your Eminence discuss how and why we should make changes to these rights? For example, the right of administering Holy Communion during this current COVID-19 pandemic, and how was it dealt with here in the diocese?
I differentiate between, I change the right and I exception for certain situations. The right is a system or orders to express our faith, because the right within liturgy is the liturgy express our faith. Faith never change, but the expression of faith, explaining of faith could change, and also the right which express the faith could change and happen to change. But this is to have a reason for a change, and this is have to be done through the Holy Synod when I change the right. But when I have a special circumstances, then I deal with a pastoral issue, not with a ritual issue. And there's difference between I deal with a ritual issue, dogmatic issue, and pastoral issue. Now in the COVID-19, we are not discussing a change the right of administering the Holy Communion, but we are discussing a pastoral need for some people who have a concern about getting infected because the way which we administer the Holy Communion. That's his issue. It is not everybody. There are many people who believe that is they go and take a communion, but they are concerned. So the way which we dealt it, we study the concern. We find that is COVID-19 is a virus which the infection is through respiratory system, breathing, droplets in the air. More, it is not related to the food. It's not a cholera. It's different between a cholera and COVID-19. So, beside believing this is the Holy Communion, taking the blood and body of Christ, but we also discuss the major things which, if there is a possibility, when this short time to take communion, infection to happen, that means someone who is infected, either this someone is a priest or the someone is a one congregant. So we said that is the priest to put a mask and shield. So if the person, because this is the major things, and is infection happen from touching. So we said that is if you are concerned, then you have to try to be trained on the method of to take communion without touching either the mastir or either the hand of the priest.
And Your Eminence released a video describing how this could happen.
Yes. If people are still concerned, then we ask, consult your father of confession. And I give instruction to the priest. That is why we are not telling people only go and take the body alone. But if some people you feel إنهم are so concerned, there is no problem, is to take the body because we put the blood on the body during the liturgy.
Yes.
فالشخص عنده إنه ممكن هنا بقى pastoral care is depend on the need of the people. The people who يعني they have no concern, they go take communion. People who are concerned and they able to take communion without touching. People who are still concerned and cannot, then they will discuss with the father of confession, and I said that is in case like this, they can take only the body. If people are still concerned, they can wait until the things this epidemic to pass. Yeah. So we deal it as a pastoral issue, not a ritual issue, not a faith issue.
That's, I think, should give comfort to a lot of people that they have all of these options. And obviously we hope people's faith is strong, that they see that, to continue the tradition and how we have been taking Holy Communion.
You notice in some of the clergy meeting when people asked, what can I do for someone who entered and took only the body and left?
Yeah.
I said, don't do anything.
That's right.
What are you going to call the police for him?
Yeah.
أمنعه من التناول. No. Don't prevent
not at
him.
all.
سيبه. لما قالوا طب maybe the other people will say يعني why he allowed. I said it's not privilege. The privilege is to take the blood.
Of course.
So if you consider taking the blood as a punishment, then don't take it.
That's right.
فهو ما فيهاش اشمعنى دي. ده هو he deprived himself from something which is offered to him.
That's right.
What can I do for him?
That's right. And we just pray that God will strengthen their faith. Yeah. Your Eminence, how then can we apply such pastoral care for other issues? For example, what St. Paul did in Corinth.
هو يعني St. Paul he used يعني this enlightened mind إنه he dealt with the issue. يعني the council of Jerusalem was very clear not to eat what is offered in the idols. Very clear. يعني it's a clear decision. But then the people of Corinth, they had the problem of three aspects. One of them, when I go to the market and want to buy meat, I don't know whether this meat is from the meat which was offered to the idols or not. Another issue, if I am invited to a meal in a temple, do I go or not? Thirdly, if a Gentile, non-Christian, invited me for a dinner, for example, and there is a meat offered here, I don't know whether this meat is for the idols or not. So St. Paul firstly put the principles, and there is no idols. There's only one God. Don't ask. يعني go to the market, don't ask. The same also when you are invited, also don't ask. But don't go to the temple, because it's very clear here.
Yeah.
He said, why I say this? Because people are not the same. If you have this knowledge and there is no God, but what about your brother who does not have and be offended? For when you see you sitting in a meal in a temple, this offend them. The same he also said, if someone told you this meat is from the offer, don't eat.
Yeah.
Why? Not from you, but from his, for conscience. يبقى هنا عمل الديسيجن it depends on the people. If you have a strong faith, strong knowledge, but also don't offend the other.
Yeah, yeah.
So the same also, مثلا, just after the Council of Jerusalem, when they settled the issue of circumcision. But then when he go to Lystra and found Timothy, he circumcised him. But how you circumcised him? Because he understood the decision. The decision was not against the circumcision, but against the circumcision as a requirement to be saved.
Right.
But if I do circumcision to avoid the resistance and win it, then I do not violate the decision.
Exactly.
And this is the wisdom to understand the spirit of the canon,
Yes.
not
yes.
the text of the canon,
Yes,
the,
yes, yes.
literal things.
Yeah, not to be hypocritical in our understanding of it. Yeah.
Or yani, to be narrow-minded
Yes. Yes.
and focus on it. Otherwise, he will not do it. The same also when he went to Jerusalem, and James told him to, you will have people and purify, do the purification right, and he did it before enter the temple. فهو يعني هنا St. Paul his idea انه what is the principle, the major things, why it prevented to what is offered to the idols, because what is around it.
Yeah.
Why the circumcision? That's why when I read the commentary of Saint Chrysostom on the circumcision of Timothy, he appraised the wisdom of Saint Paul. And هو قال I just read it last night because I want to check my answer. he said Saint Paul, after he settled the issue of circumcision and get as a decision, not the circumcision, then he do the circumcision to oppose the circumcision, because by Timothy, because his mother a Jew, then people will question this.
Yes.
So he want to win the Jew. So if he offered to them, they will be stuck on the issue of the circumcision, and they miss it. But he accepted the circumcision to win the Jew, and then oppose the circumcision. And he said, مثلا, why مثلا St. Paul refused to circumcise Titus? In Galatians, he said, I refuse it. And to be circumcised. But why you accept for Timothy and then accept for Titus to be circumcised? Because Titus was from a family from the Gentiles. So it was not required for the circumcision. But Timothy was required because his mother was a Jew.
Yeah, of course.
How he handled it, he criticized it, St. Peter, because when he was eating with the Gentiles and people come from James, and he get away from them, and he called it hypocrisy. My point is, we learn from St. Paul and St. Peter. Number one, they have enlightened mind to understand the law, the canon, and the decision, and apply it according to the situation which existing. Number two, even between them could be a differences. St. Peter considered what he did was right. He didn't consider he a hypocrite. But St. Paul considered it. So in a pastoral care, may we have different solution. I mustn't find this solution which I did for the 25th is the right one. Maybe another bishop see another solution, and we can discuss it.
Yes.
But not accuse each other,
Exactly.
not attacking each other.
Yeah.
And I said it, and it is not the ideal solution, but this is a practical solution, in my opinion.
Yes. Your Eminence, It is really a critical moment for the ministry in the lands of immigration, as there are different pastoral needs. The church as a whole is moving towards uniformity, whereas the churches and dioceses abroad are living under different circumstances. So where is the balance here? Can Your Eminence please explain?
Yani, we have to accept the unity does not mean uniformity. Unity means unity in faith, but not unity in performance, not uniformity in performance. We have to accept that it's because of the different need, then we can have different practice. Yani, like مثلا, the time of the liturgy. Can I issue a decision that's all the liturgy have to start at 9 a.m. مثلا? But why we have churches to have, but this is uniformity. مثلا في Great Lent, why we have a church have 9, church have 12, have 6 or 3? لأن في different needs. We have to accept that. And this is how the Orthodox Church lived. Unfortunately, the idea of complete uniformity, it came from Pope Leo. Pope Leo, when he sent his letter to Pope Dioscos, he told him, because we have unity in faith, we have unity in performance. And that's why he wanted him to follow what the practice they have in Rome.
Yeah.
Yes, yani what he said was not wrong, because we do it. He said about to have ordination of the priest and deacon to be on Sundays, and to have more than one liturgy on the night of the feast because of the many people, which we do in big churches in Egypt. لكن الprinciple نفسه, which is followed in the Catholic Church, when they insisted on the uniformity, but they ended by, they changed it. Now they accept the diversity. فإحنا كأورثوذكس Church, يعني the strength of our Orthodox Church is the flexibility.
Yes.
The economy. لأنه we learn from incarnation إنه the Son of God, to take human nature, he did exception. إنه هو accept pain, which things which against his person, his divine person. But because he emptied himself, he accepted things which is not related to his, but because of the purpose of salvation.
Yes.
So we do exception not because we want to do exception or we against the right. No, we respect the right. We are committed the right. But we do exception because there is benefit from it. There is a goal for it, for the salvation of it. زي مثلا بقول واحد مثلا he need to be baptized. Baptism should be by immersion on the water, complete immersion. But if he's sick and cannot be immersed, what can I do? Can I say no baptism? Well, I make exception. I do exception because I'm not against the immersion of water, but because there is a special need.
Of course, yeah. So let's take a little short break and let us have a look at a few photos of the reception at St. Mark Church in Los Angeles after the elevation of His Eminence to Metropolitan. It was a wonderful day and a great celebration. Does Your Eminence recall what you spoke about to the congregation that evening? Could you share some of your thoughts?
Yes. I told them, يعني طبعا I thanked them. I told them يعني it was with honor that His Holiness give to me. وإنه المتروبوليتان it is in our churches an honorary thing. It is not what changes anything in responsibility of them. While the metropolitan office is different in different churches, but in our church is becoming an honorary thing. But I talk about a vision. And I said that is in our service, there are two levels, vertical and horizontal. The horizontal, which is the parish churches, which is grow and thank God for this. But now we have to deepen our service. Then I talk about the need of the two departments, and I spoke about that there is a plan to have two bishops to be ordained. Because after my ordination as a metropolitan, I met His Holiness, and I joked with him. I say now أنا دلوقتي بقيت مطران عايز بقى أسقف عشان أتأمر عليكم. وعرضت عليه الفكرة. يعني قلت له سألته. I asked him question. يعني قلت له يعني Your Holiness, you served in البحيرة as a priest for some years, and then you be ordained as a general bishop, and you served as a general bishop. Do you feel there is a difference? And you could do what you did as a bishop, even we are a hegumen monk. I said, yes, the big difference. ده قبل ما أقول. قلت له يعني أنا اسمح لي أسألك سؤال يعني. السؤال ده يعني. قلت له لأن أنا يعني I ask this questions because I have the idea بتاعت الدو department. I'm يعني struggling with this question. Can we have this two department and be headed by hegumen, or I need to be a bishop? When he gave me this answer, يعني he said no, it is difference. Where he told me about يعني when they يعني ordained general bishop, because all go to general bishops, the دفعة.
Yes.
ومت His Holiness, and His Holiness قال إن يعني the idea of the general bishop failed in all the dioceses except with me. فهو كان the only one who was not with the Pope.
Right.
He said, I took this, I have to struggle to make it successful. وقال لي يعني بعض الissues اللي كانت بتعمل sensitivity مع الأنبا يعني وهو tried مثلا to avoid any sensitivity to be. فهو يعني طبعا يعني he encouraged the idea. وبقى طبعا the two names يعني he knew them very well. يعني أنبا برهام وأنبا كولوس يعني he don't know them. بعد ما خلصنا وخلاص he agreed واتفقنا إنه طب نرسمهم كده ولا لازم يبقوا مانك. فهو قال يعني to avoid any يعني confusion يعني let us keep the tradition of being monk.
Yeah.
Even I know they are living a monastic life.
Yes.
بعد ما خلصنا بعدين كان هو طلب مني ان انا يعني I make some proposal because he want to have a bishopric for ecumenical relationship. So I give some proposal, and after I finish قال لي كان أبونا إسحاق يعني to be fit to be the bishop for this bishopric. قلت له يعني yes, he has some experience on that. قال لي طب أنت يعني ممكن يعني to give him for this يعني تستغنى عنه. Don't. قلت له no, يعني I need him, but of course I look to the church as general. You are يعني our pope. And if you need him, it's up to him. يعني I cannot stop that. فيعني I prefer إنه يعني you speak directly with him. وكان هو موجودين عشان كانوا حاضرين
Yes.
he met with the Pope and يعني talk with him and ended by يعني هو يعني apologize يعني want to stay يعني to be here. This is I talk about طبعا هم قعدوا يقولوا مين انا قلتش names. هيقولوا
I'm sure they could guess.
في اثنين نكسب اثنين اسقفه وقلت what is their job. من الاول كده قلت هم يعني عشان دي successful is very clear this but still the responsibility of the churches priest is under me directly.
Of course.
لا يعني في ناس يقول لك regions
Yes.
يعني احنا بنتكلم على حاجه تانية، بنتكلم
Yes,
على departments not regions يعني. فهم برضه يعني، فانا قلت لهم يعني عشان الايديا تبقى successful I very clear and this is what they are going to do from the beginning.
And the birds doing wonderful work, Sayed. They're just
And
incredible.
then we are blessed by your presence.
It's my blessing,
To
Your
add
Eminence.
the third department. But I just speak about, of course, at
Yes.
that time there was no idea about this.
Yes.
فيعني ادي فده I talk about it يعني I took this opportunity to speak about a step which is going to happen, so people to know and to know what we are doing this and to have a chance also to hear any feedback.
Yeah. No, it's been
And
very
then
successful.
the clergy meeting I speak more in details with them. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, if we were to speak about oral versus written culture, half of our rites are not written down. So, how do we put in writing what we have received orally?
There's a big challenge here. Because أنا فاكر أبونا بشوي براونفيلد and he told me when I was ordained, and he was ordained American, as you know, originally يعني. He was ordained a priest. He was ordained with St. George Church. He said, most what I learned by my eyes, watching Abuna Ibrahim Aziz, what he is doing.
Wow.
Because many of things are not written. هو قال لي أنا I see أبونا إبراهيم عزيز. نفس الإيشو ده مرة كنا عملنا يعني seminar about mixed marriage and give a chance to some non-Copt wives or husband to speak. And I remember one of the wives, she stood and said, your church are wonderful. I love that church. But one challenge which I have to, many things are not written.
Yes.
يعني I didn't know مثلا ان the woman in some time in they cannot take communion مثلا. فأنا عرفتها ازاي؟ قالت how I didn't know it. I noticed that the ladies they give the babies to another lady to give communion. I asked why. يعني ليه هي الناس اللي جايه من مصر بالذات في الصعيد او الريف ما تقدرش حتى تروح تقرب ناحيه التناول.
Right.
فلو معاها بيبي تدي لواحده another lady going to give to take communion.
Yes.
عشان لو لها البيبي. فهي she watched that. يعني ليه بتدي ابنها وهي ما بتروحش. فقالوا لها عشان كده. فقالت لي انا اول مره اعرف، ما حدش قال لي. قالت مره مثلا انا I crossed the leg in the church.
Yeah.
فواحده يعني طبعا. فانا I asked why she nervous يعني what wrong I did.
Yeah.
فقالوا لها ازاي you don't respect the church. Nobody told me and this is disrespect.
And then actually in American culture, it's a sign of respect to be in the church to cross your leg.
Yes, she doesn't argue. يعني he said if I know I wouldn't do
of
it.
course,
يعني لو حد قال لي خش الكنيسة don't cross legs to go to in this I don't have something like that. So I think we have to do effort on that to move from oral tradition to the written tradition.
Very important.
We need this.
Definitely.
Because the mentality which you are dealing, طبعا احنا بالنسبة لنا we talk يعني easier than writing. لكن this is the generation which will
it's
pass.
important. Yeah.
But we need this. Yeah.
You know, even simple things like, you know, if someone not from the Egyptian community comes into the church, and even if they have a liturgy book with them, right, they don't know when to sit, when to stand, because these things are not even mentioned. Again, they're oral traditions, but you know, not mentioned in the text of the liturgy books, and it becomes a bit awkward for them.
مرة in the church, they يعني have the church and then extension put chairs. فكان liturgy inside praying. فواحدة يعني she came is not Copt. Got waiting. She waiting in this area. فمعها coffee. Drink coffee, not coffee with Bishop Suriel. فواحدة شافتها فجت يل how you drink coffee while the liturgy is on. فقالت لها أنا I am outside the church. And no, this is a part of the church. لأنه فاتحين he opens the door.
Yeah.
لا, but there is no sign.
No sign.
How I know? إن في sign بيقول إن this is about don't مثلا drink.
Yeah. Yeah, because these things are just natural and normal in all the other churches, that they have these signs and these cues for
But
people
we are
to
moving
follow.
in it. يعني you see
Yes.
it in many of the Coptic American churches.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
They follow this.
They do.
You need
They do.
everything in writing.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah.
And, another thing that I sometimes talk about, the importance of how we become a welcoming church. And studies speak about how long it takes for someone to think about whether they will join a particular church or not from the first impressions that they get. And it's usually like within the first 1 or 2 minutes. And that's important, that we have people that are standing at the doors of the church that have a brochure, a book, take the names of the people that are coming in, give it to the priest to welcome them. People gather around them at the end of the liturgy. Not everyone go into their groups and leave these people isolated. So we still have a little bit of work to do.
Yeah, because one of the challenge for our reaching out is our community are not welcoming.
That's true. That's another problem.
لأنه ممكن أنا فاكر مرة واحد send me a letter. أو copy of the letter which he sent to the priest of the church. He wrote that I the Coptic of the church. I love the Coptic of the church. But then for some reason I couldn't go. And for Zakar Mashar, how many months? Nobody cared to ask about me. So I felt I am like nothing. You don't care.
Yeah.
That's why I leave the church.
So sad.
هو كتب كده إن I'm leaving the church not because the Coptic church, but because nobody cared. How can I be away? Nobody even. طبعا he does not ask the priest. That's why forming a committee to help the priest to follow up, just asking about the people.
Most definitely.
And people مثلا after the liturgy hello كلمتين, but nobody talk with them, so they feel isolated. That's why the culture thing.
Of course.
I think that this changed a little bit on the American Coptic churches when all can mingle and can speak with each other.
Yeah.
But they can, one of the challenge في St. Verena Three Holy Youth. And people after the English, but after the liturgy, they speak Arabic.
Defeats the purpose.
فهم الناس اللي ما يعرفش عربي حسوا ان هم isolated.
Of course. Yeah. So my final question to Your Eminence is, again, going back to the two auxiliary bishops, His Grace Bishop Abraham and His Grace Bishop Kyrillos, and the vision that you put in 2016 for establishing those two departments of Diakonia and education. Could you perhaps tell us briefly what is the role of these two departments and the work of these two bishops? What are the main things that they work in?
Yeah. هو I felt that there are two areas which they need to more focus by the diocese, plus the work of the church, but they need to bring the church together and enhance this. The first one is because of the change of the demography of our community, then we start to face many other needs than if we say the spiritual needs, the liturgy, Sunday schools, the youth meetings. It started from the newcomers, welcome the newcomers, the addiction, the seniors, the foster homes, and all this becoming more and more as issues. Yes, as level of parish church they deal with it, but we need to organize it. So I take the model of the Bishop of Social Affairs and try to replicate here without using the word of bishopric.
Of course.
So call it department. Now I'm Abraham because he has been serving with me since 1986. So has good experience also in the bishopric and this area. And he loves this area. So that is the main thing. On the other side, I felt is a theological education, Christian education. This is very important thing, because we are very intellectual, highly intellectual society. There are many ideas coming. We need the upbringing, theological upbringing, like when I spoke about St. Cyril of Alexandria and St. Athanasius, how the upbringing brought for us such kind of personality. It's not because of the school existing. فهنا يعني قلنا نحن I put it in the Department of Christian Education because I don't want the theological to be separated, يعني to be aware about يعني احنا I know our theological education, our church since the beginning is related to the pastoral need. طبعا Bishop Kyrillos is يعني very, we prepare him for over 20 years.
Yeah, I know.
Because when I started the idea of the theological, when I came here, we tried. We have option Uda, so we want to be accredited. And he told us, if accredited, we need library, we need place, and we need stuff.
Scholars stuff, yeah.
So I started by that. And we sent to have. Now we are blessed by your presence. Your presence with us.
Thank you.
And we started a third department of Church and Society, which is a focus in how to reach out to the American society. That's why I see the podcast, this Coffee with Bishop Suriel, is in this line. Because now we have to can reach out to our community and beyond our community in a way which people can have an access to. طبعا your great experience is great experience, and also your understanding of the Western society and what's going on in the society, your intelligence and scholarly background, your PhD in the Christian education, and of course in the growing up in Australia, and all this experience is the right person for the right department, and which I feel that is our church, is to be real, the salt of the earth and the light of the world. We have to go and reach out.
We must.
And at least to have a witness. And there are many issues which in the society. We have to have our voice, to bring our voice. And I remember in the ecumenical meetings, we usually in the defense, they put something and we just criticize or accept, but never to be proactive. And we want to this, the Orthodox Church to be proactive. To also encourage people to be part of society, the political part of it, and the involvement, understanding the law. All this, it will help us in this movement, and we to be integrated in this society.
Most definitely, and I'm indebted to Your Eminence for entrusting me with this role and with this department, and I hope that this is an initial first step to begin this work, and I'm hoping that through your prayers, Your Eminence, that it will be successful and that it can reach out to many people. The goal is not just to reach out to the Coptic community, but hopefully a global community that can benefit from this. Thank you, Your Eminence, for answering these many questions over these 2 episodes, and it's been certainly a fascinating and inspiring discussion, and I'm sure that our viewers and listeners will be enriched to watch and to listen to these 2 episodes, and my hearty congratulations on this Silver Jubilee, a great milestone in your ministry and for the Diocese of Los Angeles, Southern California, and Hawaii. We will now have a look at a few photos of the ordination and reception of His Grace Bishop Abraham and His Grace Bishop Kyrillos. Before we go to our final break, I just want to mention a couple of important books. As you know, in every episode, I like to speak about books and put information in the notes of the podcast. This is an interesting book by Dr. Ilhami Khalil and the foreword by His Eminence Metropolitan Serapion, titled The Making of a Diocese, the Early Years of the Coptic Orthodox Diocese of Los Angeles, Southern California, and Hawaii. So it speaks a little bit about the early history of the diocese, and it probably you can find it on the LA Copts website, or maybe in some of the parishes in California. I'm not sure if it's available on Amazon, but it's a very interesting read. And then there is another book here. It's in both Arabic and English, about the brief history and services of St. Mary's Church, St. Mary and St. Bishoy Parish in Los Angeles, one of the early parishes to be established in the diocese. And this book is a more general history of the Coptic community in the USA from 1955 to 1970 by Sammy Bullis. But I'll put the details of these books in the notes of the podcast. So we'll be back after this very short break. I'm sure you agree with me that this was a very stimulating discussion with one of the modern visionaries of the Coptic Church, a metropolitan who has a deep understanding and empathy towards his community. He is both practical in his approach in problem solving, and yet is deeply rooted in theology, history, and the faith of the early fathers of the Church. So as you could see, that decisions are based on the scriptures, traditions, and the teachings of the fathers of the Church, as well as the liturgical tradition handed down to us. Thank you once again, Your Eminence, for blessing us and enriching all of our viewers and listeners with these inspiring lessons. Our congratulations on this most significant Silver Jubilee of your enthronement, and we look forward to celebrating with you the Golden Jubilee in another 25 years. May the Lord preserve your life and keep you for all of your children, both clergy and laity, who love you so much. Thank you, Sayyidina, and I hope that you absolve and pray for me.
Be sure to tune in next week when His Grace will be joined by Debbie Armanios, the Director of Exodus Youth Works, an innovative way of serving youth in crisis. This will be part 1 of a 3-part series. Don't miss out on learning more about this incredible and important work that needs to be emulated in so many parts of the world. To join the conversation, please visit our website, coffeewithbishopsuriel.org. And don't forget, after you listen, you can really help out by rating the show. Thank you for listening to Coffee with Bishop Suriel, a podcast for all things Coptic. To join the conversation, please visit our website, coffeewithbishopsuriel.org. And always remember, the best way to start any morning is with God and a cup of coffee.